Well, hello and welcome. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can create a quiz in Power BI. Hey, you can check the chapters down in the description and you might learn something new. So as you can see, I have a slicer which contains 4 numbers. These numbers represent the questions that are in this quiz. When I click a number, the corresponding question will appear in this table. So I already have the first number selected and it displays this question. I can choose any of the 4 choices from the table below to give the correct response to this question. I'm going to select the first choice, which is account audits. Since I'm in the desktop version of Power BI, I need to press and hold the control key and then press the show answer button. It shows that I selected the correct term by displaying the correct on the right. Now let's see what would happen if I chose a different term. It shows that I selected the wrong term by displaying wrong on the right. So if you'd like to know how I created this quiz, stay tuned. So the first thing that we need to do is get to our data. So you can see we have a spreadsheet that has 3 columns. First column is for the questions, number 1 through 4. Then we have our terms. Then we have our definitions that are associated for each term. So we're going to take this spreadsheet and import it into our Power BI report. So now we're in a Power BI report. And I want to import the information from that spreadsheet into this report. So I'm going to go to Transform Data, and that's going to open up our Power Query editor. So I'm going to go to New Source, Excel Workbook, and select our workbook. We'll choose the Suggested Tables option, hit OK. And it brings in our data from our spreadsheet. The first thing I need to do is rename this query. I'm going to call it Definitions. I need to make sure that the data types are correct. So the question column is number type, term, and definition are text. So that's correct. Next thing I need to do is create a query called term. And it's going to be based off of this definitions query. So I'm going to right click the definitions query, select reference, rename this term, and in this term query, all I need is the question and the term columns, so I can remove the definition column. To remove that, I'm going to go to Transform or Home, choose Columns, deselect the definition. Next thing I need to do is create a query called choices. So it's going to be based off of the term query. I need to remove the question column. So uncheck question. So I just have the term column. I'm going to rename this column to choices. So this is all we have to do for Power Query. I'm going to go to close and apply, and that's going to send our query or our data into our data model. Let's go to our data model. So we have a definitions table and a term table, and it's connected by this question column, a one-to-one relationship. And that's what we want. And we have a disconnected table called choices. So this is the exact setup that we need for our quiz. Let's go to the report view. The first thing I'm going to do is change the background color. Okay, so we need a couple of visuals in our report. So we need two tables. This table is going to be based off of our definition. Our next table is going to be for our choices. Now we need a slicer. That's from the term table. Change that to drop down. Where is list? Change the orientation from vertical to horizontal. Now we need two card visuals. just copy that one, put the other one here. The next thing that we need to do is we need to create some measures. But before I create some measures, I'm going to create what's called a virtual table that will hold our measures. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Enter Data button, change the column 1 to DAX Measures, change the name to DAX Measures. I'm going to hit load. You can see here we have so I'm going to select it and go to new measure. The first measure I'm going to create is for our selected term. So when we select a term, it's going to display that value. So this card visual is going to be based off of that measure. So I selected it. It has selected term here. Now that's the category, so we're going to remove the category. So we haven't selected a term yet, but when we pick our question, so you have account audits, pivoting, and recovery, point object, and persistence shows up. Let me change the font size to 20. Alright, the next thing we need to do is create another measure. That's going to display whether we chose the correct term. So we'll go to new measure. And it displays a right or wrong measure. It's using a switch function. This card visual is going to be based off of that wrong or right or wrong measure. Select this, format painter. So you can see if we choose persistent in our choices, persistent shows up here. Persistent is displayed here because it's this fourth question. We chose persistence in our choices, and that's why it shows correct. Now if we chose, let's say, account audits, we get wrong because the correct response is persistence. So what it's doing is it's looking at the selection in the choice table and comparing that to what's here. Now we need one more measure that's going to change this card visual to green or red. So I'm going to go to new measure. So this measure is similar to our last measure. Only difference is we're just changing it from wrong and right to green and red. Now we're going to apply that measure to this card. So I'm going to select the card visual. I'm going to go to Format Painter, Background, Conditional Formatting, go to Field Value, and in the DAX Measures, I'm going to select Back Color. Hit OK. So wrong will show up in red. Green will show up. Correct will show up in green. I'm going to remove this DAX measure column because we don't need it anymore. Now what we need to do is create some bookmarks. So I'm going to go to the View tab, Bookmarks, and I'm going to also choose the selection pane. So this card visual is right here. I'm going to rename it and call it Answer Card. I'm going to rename this card visual, call it Right or Wrong Card. So what we want to happen is we need to be able to hide the answer. So to do that, I'm going to hide the card visual and this visual and create a bookmark and call it Hide Answer. I deselected the data option here. Now we need another bookmark that's going to display the answer. So I'm going to unhide those two cards, create a bookmark, call it Show Answer. Deselect data. So we have Hide Answer, Show Answer. Now what we need to do is insert a button. So insert, buttons, navigator, bookmark navigator. So it has our two buttons based on our bookmarks. So if I choose the hide answer, so I press and hold the control key and press hide answer, and it hides the answer and that other card visual. If I press the show answer, it displays it. So let's test this. So I'm going to click the first question, and the answer for the first question is the first choice. So if I click show answer, it displays account audits, and that's what we chose in our choices. That's why it says correct. If I chose a different selection, it says wrong. Let me do it again. So I'm going to hide the answer. So I'm going to choose the last option. Show answer. It's correct. If I choose another choice, I get the answer wrong. If you enjoyed the content of this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.